2 Samuel 15 1-16-23, through the Bible. Chapters 15-16. Theme: Absalom rebellion against David. Absalom rebellion against David. David, after committing his terrible sin, found that trouble came to him thick and fast. The same way that he had sinned, members of his family sinned, and David is not through with the effects of it yet. God really took David to the woodshed. In this chapter, Absalom leads a rebellion against David. In a very subtle way, Absalom begins to steal the hearts of the children of Israel. He is an attractive young fellow, probably like David in many ways. He is the heir apparent to the throne, that is, David would like for him to succeed him. We find now that Absalom is back in Jerusalem, beginning to move secretly to plot David's overthrow. This is a dastardly deed, but the chickens are coming home to roost for David. Actually, a formidable revolution will break out which will cause David to flee from Jerusalem. And it came to pass after this, that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early, and stood beside the way of the gate, and it was so, that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him, and said, Of what city art thou? And he said, Thy servant is of one of the tribes of Israel. 2 Samuel 15 1-2. Absalom stationed himself at the busiest gate of the city. When men with complaints came to the gate requiring justice, he listened to them with a great show of sympathy. And Absalom said unto him, See, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear thee. Absalom said moreover, O that I were made judge in the land, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. 2 Samuel 15 3-4. Absalom was a bad boy but a good politician. He was clever and crooked, subtle and sly. And it was so, that when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand, and took him, and kissed him. And on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. 2 Samuel 15 5-6. Absalom is a true politician, isn't he? This is the way many men get elected to office today. They have no qualifications other than the fact that they are good at handshaking and backslapping. There are many preachers who use this method today. They cannot preach, and they cannot teach, but they sure can slap backs. Unfortunately, that is exactly what appeals to us. As far as I can tell from the Word of God, that is the way that the Antichrist will come to power. He is going to be the greatest little backslapper that the world has ever seen. Now Absalom was a good backslapper. He stood at the gate and said, Oh, if I were only a judge. Then you would get justice. You can understand the appeal that that kind of statement would make. Absalom was saying, If you vote me into office, I can solve all of your problems. I will be able to take care of all the foreign and domestic affairs. That is what the politicians tell us today. Unfortunately, we listen to them, believe them, and vote for them. Then when they get into office, they do not produce. Absalom, of course, is preparing for a rebellion against David, his father. This rebellion within the house of David is a terrible thing. And it came to pass after 40 years, that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord, in Hebron. For thy servant vowed a vow while I abode at Geshur in Syria, saying, If the Lord shall bring me again indeed to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. 2 Samuel 15 7-8. His request seems a little unusual. He says he wants to go south to Hebron to pay a vow he made in exile, yet he was in Syria in the north while he was in exile. However, David does not question it. And the king said unto him, Go in peace. So he arose, and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. 2 Samuel 15 9-10. You will recall that Hebron is where David began his reign. He was king over Judah for 7 years in Hebron. Absalom, obviously, did not go to Hebron to pay a vow. He went there to begin his rebellion. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem, that were called, and they went in their simplicity, and they knew not anything. 2 Samuel 15 11. In other words, these men went along with Absalom, but they did not know that the rebellion was prepared against David. And Absalom sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, even from Gilo, while he offered sacrifices. And the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom, 2 Samuel 15:12. This is a rebellion that gains momentum. It begins to snowball as it goes along, and soon there is a great company standing with Absalom. Even Ahithophel, David's counselor, is a partner to all of this. Before David actually realizes what is happening, the rebellion surfaces. David flees. And there came a messenger to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, Arise, and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. 2 Samuel 15:13-14. David is going to flee from Jerusalem. The question arises, why did he flee? David loved the city of Jerusalem. Why didn't he make a stand in this city? I am confident that David knew God was punishing him for his sin. I know this is true on the basis of 2 Samuel 15:25-26, where we are told, And the king said unto Zadok, Carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both it, and his habitation. But if he thus say, I have no delight in thee, behold, here am I, let him do to me as seemeth good unto him. David knew what was happening to him. He knew that judgment was coming from God. You recall in Samuel 13 that Amnon committed a crime against Tamar. David was disgraced by the awful thing that happened. This scandal had taken place in Jerusalem. You will also recall that David's great sin involving Uriah and Bathsheba, when David should have been out fighting with his army, took place in Jerusalem. David is leaving Jerusalem this time because he knows that God is punishing him, and he does not want to see the city he built and loved become the scene of battle. In 2 Samuel 15:30 we are told, And David went up by the ascent of Mount Olivet, and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and all the people that was with him covered every man his head, and they went up, weeping as they went up. David loved Jerusalem. He did not want it to be a place of battle, yet this city was to be destroyed more than any other city because of its rebellion and sin. Also David fled from Jerusalem because he was not ready to press the issue with Absalom. We will see in the next chapters that it was in David's heart to spare the life of his son. He did not want harm to come to him. I think David loved Absalom above every person on earth. Leaving Jerusalem puts David's life in grave danger, but that is nothing new for him. He had been in great danger many times. He has more concern about his relationship with God and with his son than he has about his life. With this background, let us look at the rebellion that is taking place. Then said the king to Ittai the Gittite, Wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place, and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger, and also an exile. Whereas thou camest yesterday, should I this day make thee go up and down with us? Seeing I go whither I may, return thou, and take back thy brethren. Mercy and truth be with thee. 2 Samuel 15:19-20. Ittai is a native of Gath in Philistia, probably a general in his own country since David later makes him a joint commander with Joab and Abishai. He feels such loyalty to David that he and his entire family insist upon going into exile with him. And Ittai answered the king, and said, As the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will thy servant be. And David said to Ittai, Go and pass over. And Ittai the Gittite passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over, toward the way of the wilderness. 2 Samuel 15:21-23. David had many loyal followers. There were many men willing to lay down their lives for him. The ark is returned to Jerusalem. And lo, Zadok also, and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God, and they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up, until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, Carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both it, and his habitation. 2 Samuel 15:24-25. David sent the ark of the covenant of God back to Jerusalem where it belonged. He recognized that what was happening to him was the judgment of God. As he left the city, he went over the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. And one told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. 2 Samuel 15:31. Ahithophel had been a highly esteemed counselor of David. When he defected to Absalom's side, David prayed that his counsel to Absalom would be foolish, and God answered this prayer, by the way. Notice that David didn't ask for judgment upon Absalom. Hushai is sent back. And it came to pass, that when David was come to the top of the mount, where he worshipped God, behold, Hushai the Archite came to meet him with his coat rent, and earth upon his head, unto whom David said, If thou passest on with me, then thou shalt be a burden unto me. 2 Samuel 15:32-33. He may have been elderly and would require more care. But if thou return to the city, and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, O king, as I have been thy father's servant hitherto, so will I now also be thy servant, then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. And hast thou not there with thee Zadok and Abiathar the priests? Therefore it shall be, that what things soever thou shalt hear out of the king's house, thou shalt tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. Behold, they have there with them their two sons, Ahimaaz Zadok's son, and Jonathan Abiathar's son, and by them ye shall send unto me everything that ye can hear. So Hushai David's friend came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. 2 Samuel 15:34-37. When David heard of Ahithophel's defection to Absalom, he induced Hushai to go over to Absalom to defeat the counsels of this now dangerous enemy. Hushai was David's friend and would risk being a spy for him. Ziba, Mephibosheth's servant, deceives David. And when David was a little past the top of the hill, behold, Ziba the servant of Mephibosheth met him, with a couple of asses saddled, and upon them 200 loaves of bread, and 100 bunches of raisins, and 100 of summer fruits, and a bottle of wine. And the king said unto Ziba, What meanest thou by these? And Ziba said, The asses be for the king's household to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine, that such as be faint in the wilderness may drink. 2 Samuel 16:1-2. You recall that Mephibosheth was Jonathan's lame son. Because of David's great love for Jonathan, he cared for Mephibosheth. Ziba, a servant of Mephibosheth, thought that the internal struggle within the house of David would give the house of Saul a chance to regain the throne. Mephibosheth was the sole heir to the throne. By telling his fictitious story, Ziba hoped to get something out of the estate of Mephibosheth. David, not having opportunity to check the facts, impetuously grants Ziba lands that had been Mephibosheth's. Shimei curses David. And when King David came to Bahurim, behold, thence came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Jerah. He came forth, and cursed still as he came. And he cast stones at David, and at all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And thus said Shimei when he cursed, Come out, thou bloody man, and thou man of Belial, the Lord hath returned upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned, and the Lord hath delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom thy son. And, behold, thou art taken in thy mischief, because thou art a bloody man. 2 Samuel 16:5-8. What Shimei said to David had some truth in it. David was a bloody man, and judgment was coming upon him, there was no question about that. Then said Abishai the son of Zeruiah unto the king, Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over, I pray thee, and take off his head. 2 Samuel 16:9. Abishai, one of David's men, was all for silencing this man permanently. Notice David's reaction to what Shimei said. And the king said, What have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because the Lord hath said unto him, Curse David. Who shall then say, Wherefore hast thou done so? And David said to Abishai, and to all his servants, Behold, my son, which came forth of my bowels, seeketh my life, how much more now may this Benjamite do it? Let him alone, and let him curse, for the Lord hath bidden him. 2 Samuel 16:10-11. David was saying, I don't mind this outsider cursing me. I do not want to take revenge on him. The thing that is happening to me is the judgment of God. What disturbs me is that it is my own boy, Absalom, who is leading the rebellion against me. We have been with David as he escaped from Jerusalem. Now we go back to Jerusalem with Hushai as he offers his services to Absalom. And Absalom, and all the people the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. And it came to pass, when Hushai the Archite, David's friend, was come unto Absalom, that Hushai said unto Absalom, God save the king, God save the king. And Absalom said to Hushai, Is this thy kindness to thy friend? Why wentest thou not with thy friend? 2 Samuel 16:15-17. Absalom is surprised that this trusted friend of his father's did not go with him into exile. And Hushai said unto Absalom, Nay, but whom the Lord, and this people, and all the men of Israel, choose, his will I be, and with him will I abide. And again, whom should I serve? Should I not serve in the presence of his son? As I have served in thy father's presence, so will I be in thy presence. 2 Samuel 16:18-19. Hushai is saying that the man whom God and the people choose will be his man, although he is secretly planning to be a spy for David. Then said Absalom to Ahithophel, Give counsel among you what we shall do. And Ahithophel said unto Absalom, Go in unto thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house, and all Israel shall hear that thou art abhorred of thy father, then shall the hands of all that are with thee be strong. So they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and Absalom went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. 2 Samuel 16:20-22. Ahithophel advises Absalom to do an abominable thing, but it has great significance for Israel. Absalom's act was a coarse and rude declaration that David's rights had ended and that everything he owned now belonged to his son. And the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled in those days, was as if a man had inquired at the oracle of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel both with David and with Absalom. 2 Samuel 16:23. The word of Ahithophel was obeyed without question, just as if it had been the command of God. The act of Absalom fulfilled what the Lord had spoken to David. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thine own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the sight of this son. For thou didst it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, and before the sun. 2 Samuel 12:11-12. We now find David back out in the dens and caves of the earth. What is he going to do? Absalom is going to try to win a victory over David's forces. David, however, is an old veteran and knows how to fight. Absalom is doing a very dangerous thing by going against his father. The tragic thing is that David loves him and wants to save him. These were difficult days for David. I am sure by now that your heart goes out in sympathy to him. But David does not whimper or cry aloud. He says in substance, Just as long as I know that things are right with God, I will bear these burdens that come upon me. David was a great man, friend. He had committed awful sin, but he is like a wonderful piece of statuary with just one flaw in it. That is the way many Christians are today. Did you ever meet one who didn't have a flaw? We all have flaws in our lives. Thank God that He will not throw us overboard because of the flaws.